Welcome to Mercedes and the Chap, a show dedicated to helping humans become extraordinary. Here we'll hone a well-rounded roadmap for us to step into our potential in all things relationships, work, purpose, and legacy. Chap, we did it again.
I barely survived.
We had another amazing episode, and this time it was Jimmy Smith, the one and only, one of my favorite people in the world.
And again, you say that, but it's true because I hear you guys banter and definitely have known each other for a while, and these stories, and I get to be a witness live to these stories is pretty.
Jimmy likes to put it all on the table. He likes to tell all the stories.
Well, he's not holding anything back, which is what we're kind of going for here, right?
Hey, that's fine. Yeah. I'm down with the vulnerability. We could just lay it all on the table. And today, one of the things I loved getting into with him was what he sees as masculinity, healthy masculinity, what he sees it's like to be a man, what his definition is of being a man. And I think it's coming from him, I would take it very seriously. You know, like that's the new Webster's dictionary definition.
Is Jimmy Smith.
Is Jimmy Smith and his definition of what it is to be a man. I think he's a living example of it as well.
I think it's just the bald head again.
Yeah, well, that does help.
It does help.
Yeah.
Just so you know. I don't have a choice. Well, I don't.
I don't know where you're going with that.
I'm going to just be quiet now. And,
yeah, well.
Let's just hear from the guy.
Yeah, I think we should just jump right into it, see what he's got to say.
Sounds good.
Jimmy, it's so good to have you back in the house.
I mean, I miss you in ways that hurt here.
Thanks, Jimmy.
I feel like I haven't breathed since. Oh, you're here too. You exist, and you are
Chap.
Doesn't matter. Mercedes, it just feels like the sun hasn't been shining without you, and I just want to get that off my chest. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Received, Jimmy, received. Today,
humbly received.
I know that we will literally spiral into so many innuendos and a conversation that I don't know if anyone wants to hear. They probably do. Right. But we can do that anytime. Today, I really want to talk to you about being a man, because I think you have some expertise in that, even though you don't always believe it.
I was born a man.
You were born a man.
Whole life.
Amazing. So you might have some experience there.
Yes.
But the whole idea of masculinity is a conversation we've talked about a bit, and figuring out what is, like, let's call it healthy masculinity,
yes,
instead of the quote unquote toxic masculinity, and what you kind of labeled as shell masculinity. Yeah. I want to get to like what the definition is of shell masculinity first and foremost.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's the way I describe it is I saw this ad for this like man box that comes to your house. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
and it's like whiskey glasses and knives and fire stuff and like, here, you can be in beard oil. And I'm like, is that what being a man is to you? Is I have knives and whiskey and beard oil, or what? Like it's the trappings of all this stuff. It's the guy in the tap out shirt who's never grappled a day in his life, or which was like when I first started MMA, it was like people decked out head to toe had never been in a ring once in their lives. And so it's that projection of masculinity. Like, don't push this because it's not real. It's cardboard shell, it's not real, right? All those things that they're trying to project. They're trying to project because they don't have it. You know what I mean? And that's
does that work? I mean,
weird.
Do you think it's like a fake it till you make it type of thing? Do you think that ever works though?
Probably with the wrong person.
To somebody, but okay, take off all that stuff and get on the mat, right?
Well,
Jiu-jitsu shirt and like projecting all that stuff doesn't do what one class will do for you, or one, take some life-saving courses so you feel safe, or like some outdoors, like do those things rather than have the trappings of you look like a woodsman. Have you ever like camped for a few days and roughed it on your own? That experience is worth so much more than I have a beard that looks like I live out in the woods. Have you ever experienced being out?
Yeah, but you can't market that. That's the problem, right?
So yeah, you can't sell that, I guess.
You can't sell that. Camping in the woods, how much is that,
Right.
Can you sell a shirt that says I camped in the woods?
You're selling insecurity. That's what you're selling, insecurity.
What a genius.
I've never understood.
What a genius, though, the people that came up with that. Brilliant.
No, you're a great businessman. Whoever you are who came up with the man box, you're awesome. I don't get it. I would never buy that stuff. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Material masculinity.
Material masculinity.
So what is it though? Why do men not step into, an MMA studio or go and take the life-saving course or whatever it is?
There is
some obviously do.
Some do, but the issue to me personally is one thing you will learn real quick. doing any combat sports or anything is you get your ass kicked a lot. And there's this idea that masculinity and failure don't go together, you know?
Thank you.
And they do a lot. You mess up a lot and you screw up a lot and you
maybe the number one thing you need to face over and over.
Right. Is there's always a bigger bully. There's always somebody better than you or bigger than you or anything like that, you know? And the unwillingness to face that is an unwillingness to go anywhere or do anything where, you find out real quick if you're the star basketball athlete, you go to Duke and go, oh, that's basketball, right? Or I'm a great football player, and you go to Ohio State and you go, oh, these are great football players. And then you go to the NFL and go, oh, those are great football players. And that step up, I think, intimidates people. And masculinity is part of that, is going, hey, man, I might just take an ass whooping today, or I might just collapse and fail and my lungs are burning and I can't breathe. And that failure or possible failure or physical consequence stops people. And so if you stop there, well, then I got to pretend I'm there or pretend I could do that. And I couldn't really, you know, but you got to be willing to step over those things. A lot of people just can't do that.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think? I mean, how many are we talking like, there's a good bit of people you think fall into that as far as men go? Yeah.
A lot.
And it's unfortunate because it's not necessarily, some of them aren't necessarily trying to do that. It just is like, maybe that's what I do if I'm a guy. And it's like, maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, it's also, you know, I have an uncle who was a competitive swimmer. He was one of the best in the world in the late 60s. You know, he's like fifth at the Olympic trials, swam against Mark Spitz. You remember Mark Spitz?
Amazing.
Yeah, swam against Mark Spitz and all this stuff. So he's like fifth or sixth in the country, All-American at USC and all this stuff. And he's like, well, swimming was my thing. Can you know, skin a buck and can you get... No, I was a swimmer.
I was a swimmer.
He's content with... That was my physical outlet, and I was one of the best in the world. He doesn't feel self-conscious about, can you fight? Can you do... No, that wasn't my thing. This was my thing. And I was an athlete. I was a top-level athlete. I was an elite athlete. But I don't feel the need to, I can do that. You know, okay, well, that's not... To be able to go, the woods aren't really my thing. I grew up in the outdoors, but someone who doesn't go, I don't like that, you know? And so few, they feel the need to... I
got to do it all.
I don't
know
like
how to do
that.
it all.
That's not real. Some people go, yeah, I like the woods, but I don't really like guns.
Yeah.
I like this. I love grappling. I don't like getting punched in the face. So I just did jujitsu. I don't like kickboxing. And the security of being comfortable in your own skin, I think is a big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not for me. This is for me. And
that's not for me. This is for me. I don't do every man. I don't drink. I've never had a drink in my life. And to a lot of people, that's somehow emasculine. That doesn't bother me at all. Screw them. You know, I don't feel the need to, I brag that I can drink 100. I don't like that stuff, you know? So I don't feel the need to outdrink anybody. That doesn't mean anything to me. But to some people, that's like the root of masculinity is I can drink you under the table. Okay. Want a cookie? That's ridiculous. Yeah, to me. Yeah.
So what is your description of a man?
That's tough. That's really tough. I was thinking about that on the way over here. I have a daughter and a son. And I was thinking on the way over here, what would I teach my son I wouldn't teach my daughter? I have one of each, you know. And I was sitting there trying, other than obviously dating advice, you know, if my girl likes boys and my boy likes girls, dating advice is going to be different. But you be, you know, aggressive and assertive and know what you want. And okay, am I talking to my daughter? Am I talking to my son? And I think that, I don't want to say, it's not a negative. The things that were masculine when my dad was growing up are kind of irrelevant now, where the man has to be the breadwinner. Not necessarily, you know, yeah, maybe in the 60s when he was growing up, or the 50s, but not now, you know. And then, you know, a man fixed everything in the house when I was a kid. My dad could fix anything in the house. I can't fix my computerized washing machine that is plugged into our internet. No one can. You have to have an engineering degree. I can't open my hybrid SUV and fix it like my dad could open up a Mustang and change the carburetor out. So many things that were the purview of men. And, you know, my grandmother never left the house if she didn't have hose and her hair done, and she grew up in, you know, she was born in 1924. So a woman didn't step out of the house unless they looked like Marilyn Monroe, right? And so that's kind of irrelevant. She didn't go to the store in yoga pants, right? But women do now. But so much of it is gone.
But your ability to adapt and rise to the occasion, maybe that is that one
and just get up after failing.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, but I want my daughter to do that too.
No, it's
absolutely.
not-
Yeah.
exactly,
you
That's
want
a
your
good question.
daughter to have masculine energy that's healthy inside of her as well. I mean, we all have both masculine and feminine, if we want to get into that whole end of the spectrum.
But maybe this is what you're asking: is masculine energy a positive in boys?
Yeah, what's the
Absolutely.
difference?
Right.
Like
It's
confidence
necessary
and
in all of us.
assertiveness or whatever, the willingness. One thing that was really a thing when I was a kid, and it's my family too. This is gonna sound a little weird. The willingness to do violence at a certain point. I grew up with that. And is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? But the men in my family, because my dad's side are all hillbillies, right? They're all from Kentucky and all that stuff. And so it's violent up there. My dad always said that. He goes, people idealize country life. It's violent up there. He goes, it's really violent. Families have a problem. Somebody ends up in the woods,
Wow.
buried somewhere. Because that happened all the time. My grandfather was in the military, career military. And my dad was in the military, 60 to 64. And the idea that, you wouldn't do violence in defense of your family or something like that was masculine to him, right? If you can't shoot or you can't stab somebody or you can't fight, what are you going to do if somebody comes to your house? And that's a true concept today, you can imagine, but my mom can shoot just as well as my dad. He grew up as shooting, and he taught my mom how to do it. So it's not like my mom wouldn't do it, because she would. You met my mom, Mercedes. She would shoot you real quick. So it's, if you come to the house and she doesn't know who you are, that's what's going to happen. So is that a masculine thing? Is that something you could teach a woman to do? Is that, so that's a line that certainly was there when I was a kid. And, how much is it there now? I don't know. Well, it's hard to think of those lessons.
Or maybe that's amazing, because I didn't really think about it that way. But the fact that the woman is gaining some of these attributes of modern society, like how to pick up a gun and shoot. And I mean modern, maybe the last couple hundred years.
Right.
And we're seeing this in the world we're living in right now on the news. And but with regard to the man, but that doesn't mean you should detract or retreat. Right? You need to still keep that. Just because she can do it doesn't mean you shouldn't.
Yes.
You should still do it.
That's me personally. I would. But it's very interesting to me that, and this is one thing I think that there's a little bit of a backlash and a back and forth about this. If you remember, and I know you do, in the late 80s, and the 80s statistically were the height of divorce in the United States. A lot of people don't know this. More divorces happened in the 80s percentage-wise than any other decade. And women started equalizing their pay so they could afford to leave a bad marriage. All these things kind of came together in the 80s. At the end of the 80s, and even to now to some degree, every man on TV in a family setting became a bumbling idiot.
Yeah, they did.
They became Homer Simpson and Al Bundy and Ray Romano and these and their wife's putting up with them. And it was this I remember it so clearly going, man, is every dad just an idiot? And
where did that come from?
I think it was because so many of us grew up without dads. And they were telling us, well, they're not great anyway. I think it's a reaction to so many of us, me, myself included, past the age of 9, dad wasn't around. And so media started telling us that dads were, bumbling, honey, and their wives looking after them. They can't satisfy them sexually. They have crappy jobs. They're miserable all the time. They screw up, and their wives get them out of it, which is like 99% of the
Well, we still see
plots.
these today. I mean,
Modern Family, every dad on that show is an idiot. An idiot.
Just like it's like a weird way that we've began to accept the fact that men are losers.
Men
or
are
something.
losers or morons. They can't do anything right. They peaked in high school, and like this popular idea of dads are morons. And I think maybe there's a kid like me who, I was 13 at the end of the 80s, where there might be like a shift back to that, where we got away from it, we get back to, where, hey, they're not a bunch of bumbling fools all the effing time. Like, you know what I mean? So I think there might be an overreaction compensating for that, because I remember like every time we turned on TV, every dad was an idiot and he didn't know what he was doing, and the wife saves him. And it just became this plot point over and over and over.
Commercials to this day. I mean, you still see them on commercials all the time.
Did you see there was a Super Bowl commercial years ago for Dodge, and a guy was, I'm not joking, on a chain in the front yard chasing the cars, and the wife came out and was like, he keeps doing it. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I remember I wasn't that old. I was saying I was a teenager, maybe I was in college, and I was like, can you imagine a woman staked to the front yard by her neck chasing cars? But he's so stupid, he's a dog. And she's like, there he goes, chasing Dodges or whatever. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It was crazy.
Did it even work? I mean, I wonder if these ad campaigns even work.
I don't know.
I just changed the channel and when ads
it definitely
anyway, so
got your attention anyway.
I guess so, yeah.
And playing into any stereotype is always attention grabbing because we get it. But it's also...
It's always the same idiot bumbling
They're kind of running out of ideas.
Yeah, the same idiot bumbling guy, right? And so I don't like that either. Like, I think a lot of masculinity that my dad grew up with was terrible, by the way. But...
too extreme.
Really extreme. The other side is that we're all a bunch of duttering morons who can't do anything. And so,
and then we tie it to the word masculinity, which is
which is not fair at all. It's weird.
Yeah, and it really is an energy, and any of us can embody it, whether we're gendered, male, female. But I do have a question about people, especially men, as they are aging and testosterone wanes, and we've had conversations about testosterone before, because obviously we both worked in very testosterone laden sports. Jimmy, I happen to know a little fact about you that your doctor told you once after a hormone level reading that you have the highest natural testosterone he's ever seen.
He flipped out. It was funny. It was the doctor's nurse who actually had the numbers in front of her, and she was like, that's weird. And I was like, really? And she was, oh yeah. She's like, that's not normal. All the men in my family are like that. Like,
that's interesting. I didn't know that. But of course I don't know that because I didn't really study you like that.
Okay, it's cool.
Sorry, bro. We just
Mercedes knows me like that.
For better or for worse. But here's the thing. I've been reading and I've been hearing that natural testosterone has been falling generationally. Mm-hmm. Have you heard this?
I have heard that.
What do you think is going on there?
We've been calling men bumbling idiots for too long.
Calling men bumbling, I don't know. I don't know exactly why. One thing is that I don't know if it was enough to affect things nationally. If you F with it young, it goes away early.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, now that's really interesting. Thank you for that.
So in my field, it's guys taking PEDs young, and their systems don't recover.
Because it doesn't producing enough.
Yeah, it stops producing testosterone really early and really young.
Can you say what we're talking about here?
We're talking about any PEDs, a steroid.
What does PED stand for?
Performance-enhancing drugs.
Sorry.
So steroids.
It shows how much I used them.
Right. Yes, okay. So steroids, growth hormone, any of these things that mess with your system. I had a doctor tell me one time, and he said, if you ever want to know why a drug is bad, anything your body gets artificially, it stops producing naturally. Right. Cocaine addicts don't get happy about anything but cocaine because their brain learns to not turn on, right? The pleasure centers of the brain don't turn on for anything but cocaine. Heroin addicts, everything hurts them. Their bodies don't produce the painkillers that normally we produce. And he says testosterone, anything that messes with your testosterone will affect your endocrine system.
Okay,
It'll stop producing those things.
This is very important, right? Because if you're a younger guy watching this, don't do drugs. Of course, that's easy for us to say. We grew up, this is your brain, all drugs, the frying egg, and it worked, right? Yes. But what we're saying is like literally
it worked.
That's another conversation.
It worked great. That's why we're bald.
That's why.
Clearly, we were taking too much hair supplements.
Right, and then it totally screwed us up later on in life, yes.
So the question about that is, and this is, I'm always trying to extract something that's like down and dirty, simple, right? Yep. And this is this. It's like you're taking these performance enhancing drugs to make yourself be more like whatever, more strong, more badass, whatever. The fact is you're doing the exact, you might work for a little bit, but you're definitely killing it. You're speaking to this right now.
Yeah. You're seeing it. I never did anything. I'm just being honest. If I did, I'd tell you. I never got to a level where I needed to do any performance enhancing drugs. So all I've done my whole life is work out and do jiu-jitsu, and I never. So my testosterone levels stayed really high my whole life. And
well, also I would say that just being in the industry and being around like the back end of the industry. So I'm around not necessarily just professional fighters, but I've been around people who love MMA and practice MMA, but aren't necessarily people who are competing and out there wanting to take, these synthetic hormones, but are aging, as I'm growing up next to them. So I'm watching what they're, and I have these conversations with a lot of people on the crew, or I did when I was at Bellator. And guys would tell me like they'd be in their 40s and their 50s, their testosterone would start waning. And so they'd try to figure out what they could do naturally to bring it back up. And jiu-jitsu was a huge one for that. And it's that male bonding, it's that rolling around and then pushing yourself to the very limit every time you're, rolling together.
My life, basically.
Your life.
So speaking of this life, okay, Mercedes, we'll agree, is moderately attractive. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give her like a 6.5, right? Fair. As part of that, though, let's use her as an example.
Yes.
Enough of that. Okay.
Okay, Dad.
Okay. I'm older than you.
I can harass Mercedes. I've been harassing Mercedes for over a decade. I will harass her whenever I like.
Keep doing it, please. Actually, it's very entertaining.
Right.
She needs
I will literally.
She needs it, by the way.
Harass you. I have a story to tell.
missed it.
You tell me, because I have a story I need to tell about you.
Okay, so when you're hanging out with someone like her as a married guy, okay, very attractive, put together, very, very sexy, intelligent woman.
Yes.
How does your significant other deal with that?
She's great.
Well,
yeah, she's
I
great.
mean, what makes her great with dealing with it? Is this magic we don't know about, or do you have an idea? Well, like, what do you do? What do you do to make sure she knows it's great?
I can't handle somebody. My lifestyle doesn't lend itself to somebody who can't. So maybe it's a filtering process where I can't stand.
Like you're not willing to ask for
I'm
permission.
not willing. I don't ask permission to live my life. And I don't want to say this is masculinity, so I'm not going to say men, adults. One of the things about being an adult that people underappreciate is when I think of my childhood, I think of a lack of agency. Dad said, get in a car. You got in a fucking car. Nobody tells me to get in a car. I'm an adult, 44. Can't make me get in a car. Can't make me do anything I don't want to do.
And this is a wild difference from,
right.
Asking for permission is a wild difference from being considerate about your partner's feelings.
100%. And so it's one of those things where I'm on the road a lot. Well, I am. I'm on the road every week. She's on the road constantly. She's a producer, so she's on the road all the time. If I were the type, which I'm not. Let me back up and tell a story.
Okay.
I knew a woman who was sleeping with a married guy. His wife was super paranoid. Checked his phone, all this stuff. They screwed at work. They screwed behind a dumpster. They screwed in his car. That woman drove herself nuts being possessive and got nothing out of it.
Amazing.
I'll find a way to get what I want.
Right.
Whether
no matter what.
I'm out of the supermarket.
For some people, that makes it more exciting for them.
Or they can be on the road for 3 weeks. I am not going to drive myself nuts, and she's not going to drive herself nuts.
Trying to corral you.
Worrying about any of that stuff. And it was so great, Mercedes. You know this, when I was in the Bellator crew, we would occasionally go out and help single moms with their rent, meaning we go to a strip club. That's our code. Got to help some single moms. And they're all on the phone lying.
Right.
And I'm in the car on the way there. My phone rings. Hey, what's up? Where you? Oh, what's going on? Hey, we're all headed to the strip club. Okay, all right, we're turning back. I was like, I don't know, 1 maybe, which, different time. Okay, if you're back by 1, give me a call. If not, okay, have a good time. Bye, click. And everybody's looking at me like I don't know, performed magic or something. And I'm like, what? Like, it's no big deal. It's no problem. I have no issue with that at all. And so that's that freedom to live your life and have fun and not worry about it. Because the moment you do, then I'm going to feel, whoa, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? And we never worry about any of that ever.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to, of course, trust, but it comes down to the consideration, your partner knowing that you are considering them in everything you do, and that you are a considerate person. Like, that's where the trust comes in. Is the person I'm with considerate, and are they considering me and what they do? And that's what you have to trust in your partner. Otherwise, you end up trying to control everything they do and making both of you miserable in the process, and likely ending the relationship at some point because of it.
So I'm telling my story.
I want to hear it. No, I want to hear it. That's what
I was. All right. So Mercedes and I love this cartoon called Squidbillies. It was on Comedy Central. And then so I had them all on my computer, and we're talking or whatever. We're going to the elevator. And I'm like, oh, I got them all on my computer. And she's like, oh, man, let's sit there and watch them. I was like, okay, come to and we'll watch them, which was not weird for us at all. We watch movies all the time. And so we're in the elevator with all these Bellator people, and she gets out on her floor, and she goes, okay, my room in 10 minutes. And the door closes, and everybody looks at me and is like, cat's out of the bag. And I'm literally watching cartoons with her for like 2 hours. And I was like, man, sorry, guys had to find out that way. And they're like, you're watching movies, aren't you? I'm like, no, maybe we're doing it. But that was the whole joke. She's like, my room in 10 minutes. I was like, Gotcha.
Now, did you know what you were doing when did you know you were kind of setting him up when you would say
Not
that?
even a little bit, because
But you remember that moment. You're like, yeah, my
first
room
of
in
all,
10
the
minutes.
reason why everyone in that elevator knew that it was really just watching movies was because, first of all, I said it out loud, so obviously I'm not trying to hide anything in front of them, but also because everyone knew me. Again,
Yeah.
I'm a person who considers my partner, I'm a person who, Jimmy said before, maybe professional is the word, like you're not going to get the wrong idea. So it wasn't hiding anything. You know what I mean?
And I tried to give the wrong idea, and she just literally every time she's like, wrong idea. I'm like, oh, dang it.
Well, on that note, what is something that you know about Mercedes that we're not sure many other people know?
Oh, wow.
Ooh,
Okay.
look at that face.
Scared.
Oh, yeah, no. Okay. She is game competitive. I have played games with her at parties. We were playing categories.
Oh, probably like Taboo.
Taboo and categories, and she gets the eye of the tiger.
That's true.
And it is scary. Look, she's doing it right now. She's doing it right now. You just did it right now. She is like, and I've seen her team, and like, no, the worst is like we're on a team, and her team scoots so much, she's like, no smile, no levity in her eyes at all. It was like,
Y'all,
how dare you let me down?
Do you think she would cheat at Monopoly?
Oh, I'm not a cheater.
Oh, so you wouldn't? Okay.
Which
Because
is exactly what a cheater would say.
Right.
Oh,
Thank you. She's like,
said.
I am not. How dare you even suggest? Right
Now,
sure.
have you
I
had?
have my eyes on
Has she done like her voices for her animals yet? Have we? Because I know on one of the episodes, Jimmy's has done some animal voices.
Some of his voiceover work for his animals.
Let's hear some of Mercedes' voiceover work for some of hers.
I don't know. Listen,
No, I don't know. Come on.
I don't have particular voices for each animal or
No,
anything.
but in generally.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how I sing to my animals constantly, but I really just make up songs. And my animals are my animals. I have cats. My cats are named after Egyptian gods, goddesses, this type of thing. So the name, like Imhotep and Cleopatra. So I have to get basically a song that rhymes with that. So right now we're calling. Right now I'm saying like the beautiful Igbo. So I come up with songs, and I'll make Jimmy's rolling his eyes at it. But yeah, I come up with.
Steeler thinks cats are delicious, by the way.
I know.
I
Don't
love
tell
cats.
me that story
I love
about
cats.
Buddha again.
Do love
I
cats,
will.
but Steeler
We don't want to know that story.
I can't have a cat.
Don't tell that story.
Yeah.
Here. We're too much a cat people for that story. Yeah. I do, and I'm not to change the subject because I'll be happy to give you cat voices all day long, but I don't know if it charms all the audience here. So I do want to talk to Jimmy though about, since we were talking about relationships.
Back to me. Let's be more important.
Back to you.
Back to me. Go ahead.
Everybody, come see how good I look. Relationship deal breakers. What, since you have this like trust with your wife, who's, by the way, an incredible producer, and awesome. Everyone watching this has probably already seen her work. You have this relationship that I would say is highly unlikely for these things to come up, but maybe in your past, or if this ever happened in your current relationship, what are those deal breakers for you that you could be like, I don't think we can work through this?
Yeah, there are a couple. I hate retroactive communication.
What's that mean? Like passive?
Yeah, but it's I didn't like this 6 months ago. What are you talking about? Like, oh, that thing you did 6 months ago that I pretended I liked. I don't. I know this is this is a stereotype, but this kind of analogy of you pretended to like football until we started dating, and then it turns out you don't like football. You always hated football. I hate that retroactive logic.
It's like dishonesty, basically.
Yeah, but it's there's this all like that delay bugs me. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that
it's like
lack of communication irks me to no end.
Inauthentic, and now you're like, shit. Can I even trust anything you're saying right now?
Right. Then it's what? I'm in 6 months. I'm gonna find out that you don't like whatever we're eating right now, and you're eating it to make me happy,
or me for that matter.
Yeah, like who knows what it is, right?
So it's a people-pleasing problem, is what that looks like, right?
Just bugs the hell out of me. That is an absolute killer, you know. And someone who puts up, I had an ex who just like put up all these walls for stuff where you know, I don't like this apartment, but we can't move here because of this, and we can't move here because of there, so we can't move here because of that. So we're stuck here, and you're not happy. Like, you know, any of those walls can come down if you just don't constantly create problems for yourself. I hate people who like make their own lives like so much harder then they have to be. That's an absolute killer for me. I can't hold your hand through that stuff.
Yeah.
I've done it before. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
And as far as that goes, these intellectual relationships with women, I mean, can you speak to that? Like, are men able to have truly intellectual relationships with women?
Without the romantic piece.
Without, right, sorry. Without, like,
Yeah,
friend intellectual.
Like, I would say Jimmy and I have a
Yes,
very
yes.
intellectual and spiritually connected relationship. So
Yes.
I would say it's a very intimate relationship.
Yes, very. Yeah.
And it's
Very
non-sexual.
possible. Yeah. And then also,
I'd say the same thing about you, Chap, but I think this
Right.
is an interesting conversation
No,
because I happen
right,
to
of
have
course.
that relationship with both of you, which is something that a lot of men do not believe can
Well,
happen.
how does this work, right?
They
Because
find
it's
it-
easy for, how do you do it?
the way I can do it is, I don't find not sleeping with somebody threatening. They see it as kind of this, either that person's a goal or that person's a something I'm going to get, and not getting them says something about me and my ability to get women. Like, I don't reflect any of that on Mercedes. Or I don't reflect any of that on you. So I don't, you know what I mean? Someone who sees that person as a goal or some kind of, challenge, or if I don't, then I'm not. And you're like, I don't see it that way. But if you
Like, in other words, so us not sleeping together doesn't become a rejection.
doesn't
point for you.
destroy my freaking
Right.
ego, or I see it as rejection. I don't think that way about people, And then,
So you haven't even set yourself up. That's kind of
yeah,
the point. Yeah,
I'm
you're not
not
even right.
yeah, it's
I think it comes back though to an earlier point about when you are coming from that desperation, or like it's a lack, a scarcity, like a lack, and wanting to have as much as you can have of this person instead of just accepting what is actually available.
yes,
And then also being really clear with communication, which has to, this is important for anyone who wants to have intimate relationships with people of the opposite sex without the sexual thing, bogging it down. You have to both be willing to communicate clearly and I think bluntly about your intention in the relationship, or as clear so that the other person has got that communication. Like, if I was always egging on and flirting in some way, then it would probably not work out very well because he would be uncertain where he's safe in this relationship. And if he was doing the same thing to me and I was receiving it that way, I would feel unsafe of like, ooh, this might encroach on my own love relationship or on our relationship as friends, and I'd have to figure out how to let you down, and that would cause a whole nother end of drama that I don't want to deal with.
right. So, who needs that? Right?
Who needs
Right?
that?
Who needs that? And I don't. Yeah, and also throughout my life, like I'm an intensely physical person, and I'm like kind of brutal, and so either you click with me or you don't. And I tend to know really quickly if that's a possibility or if that's going to happen, or if there's anything going on. I tend to know super fast, or I don't, and I never do. It's weird.
Before we close this out, did you have something you want to
I just had one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had one question.
Please.
The value of a woman as a friend for a straight guy.
Huge.
Yeah, agreed.
To me, it's huge. And I've had a lot. And some of them, I've had sexual relationships when I was younger, and then they got in a relationship, we didn't, and I didn't sleep with them for 20 years, and we were friends for I'm also able to go from, we used to have one, now we don't, so we don't.
But just in general, having a friend that's a woman.
Huge, man, huge.
It
just
really
gives
is.
you a ace in the hole. Or
Oh,
whatever they
man,
call
it gives
right?
you a perspective. You're like, oh, yeah, because I am just, you know how I am. Like my brain's on rails, right? I don't hop off very often. So
They could be your best asset, really.
100%. And it's something you really have to have, in my opinion.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you before we close out this episode about becoming a father. Because when I first met you, you're like, hell no, not having kids, never going to do it, not going to happen. What was the turning point for you where you decided, you know what, I think I can actually approach this?
I had to work on a lot of stuff to not be my dad, because I think that's the
That was the
fear
worry.
of a smart person is, I know I'm effed up, and I know I'll put that on somebody else. So like, you're just aware enough to know that you'll be bad, And I was there where I was like, I don't like, I'll do what I did when my dad did, and I don't want to do that. And I worked on those problems enough. I was like, okay, I think I'll be all right. And that it took probably a decade of work from the time I met you to the time I had kids, and a lot of it was just working on my own stuff. So I made sure I didn't transmit that stuff to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. I was therapizing you the entire 10 years, so that's really what did it, I'm sure, for you.
It's the downside of having women friends is you hear stuff like that.
I would. Yeah.
You're welcome, by the way,
Especially
Jimmy,
this one.
for my fairy dust advice.
You're welcome. You never asked for it, but you're
But
welcome.
here,
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, hello.
By the way, you've been seen with me, so you're welcome.
You're
That's
welcome.
another one too.
Wow.
She does. She'll be like, "You're welcome for being seen with me."
Yeah, that sounds like me.
I love these voices, man.
That she does.
They're awesome.
She does that.
All right, guys. So you can find Jimmy Smith on Instagram at Jimmy Smith MMA. And any other places you want people to find you and connect with you, Jimmy? Or is that like
I mean,
pretty much the
finding and
best?
connecting with people, not really my
It's
thing.
not really your strong suit.
But Jimmy Smith MMA on Twitter and then J Smith MMA on Instagram. If you want to get in touch with me, that's fine.
Okay,
or
I'm sorry, I said it
or
wrong.
you can turn on your television every Monday and watch Monday Night Raw and see me.
That would be a
Oh,
great
there we go.
place to get to
See,
know
like
you.
I want to see Jimmy Smith. Turn on Monday. You will hear me babble for 3 hours endlessly.
Have you heard about the television?
Right? Have you turned on this box that allows you to see everything I do?
The TV.
Right. That's
Go for
before
it.
we go.
Oh, yeah, do it.
I find social media maddening.
I know.
Because it's how do I see you more? I'm on TV every week. You real 3 hours doesn't. I'm on radio every day for Sirius XM Tuesday through Friday. I do ESPN International Fight Camp on Wednesdays. It airs on Thursdays usually, and I do Monday Night Raw for 3 hours.
Like, I'm
if
exhausted
you can't get
after
enough
that.
Jimmy Smith there. My mom is like, I do not watch you on television because I'm sick of you. So I don't understand.
Well, we're not sick of you yet. Can't
Not
wait to
yet.
have you back. Love you, love you, love you. And thank you so much for coming in and spending time with us, driving up from Miami to be with us. And you are just one of those people who I love to death. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate you too, and you're all right.
So are you.
You're solidly okay.
That's the hair.
All right, that's what it is.
That's growing. I like it. I like it. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching us. If you'd like to be part of our community, please subscribe, connect, and comment through the links below. We do this show every week, so you can catch us again next week. Bye for now.